Hey, did you know that plastic is produced with oil? A fossil fuel that pollutes the environment. Wouldn't it just be awesome if we could live our lives without plastic? Well, there's a company that wants to help you do just that. Life Without Plastic. They sell products that will reduce or eliminate your dependence on plastic. They have a large selection of products like toothbrushes, food storage containers, drinking straws. And the best part is that they're also very reasonably priced. So what are you waiting for? Check out all these great plastic-free products and help save the planet. Just click on the link in the show notes to find out more and to start your journey to being plastic-free.
Hello friends, and welcome to Nature Wanderer Podcast. I'm Paul, and tonight I'm actually wandering. Yes, I said tonight. I'm wandering through my yard, and I'm out here to experience one of my favorite things in the springtime, the magical light show of hundreds of insects flashing throughout my field. Every year, I come out in the spring and I watch this amazing blinking lights of these small insects, and you probably know them as fireflies. They're also, they do have some other names, fireflies. Some people call them glowworms, which is a really bad name for them. Glowworms are actually in the same family as the fireflies. The family is known as Lampridae, and it does include the glowworms, but glowworms don't have wings. They can't fly. But some people still call these guys glowworms. Maybe because fireflies, some species, the larva will glow. It's really a totally different beast, the glowworms. So some people call them lightning bugs as well. So they do have a lot of different names, but I've always known them as fireflies. I don't know if you remember, maybe you did it, maybe you didn't when you were a kid. You'd grab a jar and you'd go out and you'd catch the fireflies and you'd put them in the jar and watch them light up. Well, if you do that, every kid should experience that, holding the firefly, maybe, catching them, putting them in the jar. But always make sure you let them go afterwards. These guys have a short lifespan. Their lifespan is, a matter of weeks, and that's not their total life. They do go through a complete metamorphosis. So the fireflies, lightning bugs, they actually start out as an egg, and the egg is probably about 3 weeks. When the egg hatches, you have the larva. Now the larva lives underground, and they feed on, not all the time, they do come out of the ground, but they will live about 1 to 2 years, either under the ground or low to the ground, and they're feeding on things like earthworms in the ground. They're feeding on snails, so they're feeding on a lot of different animals. The adults, which is after the larva stage, comes the pupa stage, which is about 3 weeks, and then you get the adult stage, which is the ones that we see out in our fields flashing, giving off their signals. And the adults only live about 3 weeks. Now scientists have been studying them, and they're like, what do the fireflies eat as adults? And there's different theories. They really don't know, but some are carnivorous, and I'll get into that in a little while, but some of them they believe are eating things like nectar and pollen. But the scientists really don't know what they eat as adults, to be honest with you, so they're still studying that. But they do eat in the larva stage, and of course they have to, because they're out there 1 to 2 years in the larval stage. So as an adult, they're basically as an adult breeding, mating, and laying eggs. So very short lifespan as an adult. Okay, I'm going to be quiet here. I don't know if you're picking it up. Got some spring peepers in the background. I was also hearing some, a toad, tree frogs. But we already did the Frog Watch episode, but I'm just listening to some of the different critters out here while I'm in the middle of my field. So, like I said, very short lifespan. So these guys, you don't want to sit them in a jar. They got to get out there and they have to mate, lay their eggs. So just let's leave them alone. Enjoy them. Watch them in the field. If you put them in a jar, enjoy them for an hour, let them go. Let them go out and do what they need to do. Now, when you're out there looking at these fireflies, there's more than one species out there in the entire world. There's actually about approximately 2,400 different types of fireflies. That's a lot. Now, most of them are not in your backyard. Most of them, about 50%, half of them, are found in the tropics. The tropical regions will hold the most species of fireflies, and about 50% are found in Central and South America, in the tropical climate, and also in Asia. So half of your species are in those areas. So in your backyard, you may have maybe 5-10 different species of fireflies. Over 2,400 or approximately 2,400 species of fireflies. And what is this flashing all about? Okay, well, the flashing that you're seeing out in the field, that's actually them talking. It's their communication. I would love to sit here and be really quiet so you could listen to the fireflies, but they don't say anything. We can't hear them. They're communicating with each other. I can hear the frogs, but they're communicating with each other through their flashes. If you watch them, you're going to notice that they flash in different ways, different colors. Some fireflies are kind of a yellowish color with their light. Others are more of a green. They have a little bit of a green to them. And you probably didn't realize that, but start looking closer and you're going to start realizing that you're seeing a yellow flash, you're seeing a green flash. You're also seeing maybe a pattern. Some will just do one flash. I'm watching them right now, and I'm seeing a lot of them are doing just one flash, and then they stop, flash, stop. And every once in a while, I'll see one that'll do 2 flashes. Some will do 3. So they're doing a pattern. And these flashes are to let them know, hey, I'm your species. Now, with most of them, it's the males who are doing the flashing. But some species, the male and the female will do the flashing. They're letting everyone know that, hey, I'm ready to mate. But that's not the only reason that they're communicating. Sometimes they're communicating to let them know, at least this is what the scientists believe, that there's danger around. All of this flashing is to communicate in one way or another. Now there is a species, actually there's a few species, but I know in my neck of the woods there's one main species that is, as I was saying earlier, carnivorous. They will eat other fireflies. And they are a mimic too. They will mimic the fireflies. So what they do is they will do the same flash pattern as a female of a certain species. So that the males are like, oh, there's a mate for me. They're doing the female flashing pattern. They go over to that what they thought was a mate, and they finally realize after they are munched on that it wasn't their own species, it was this carnivorous species. So they do sometimes mimic, but there's not a lot of the species of fireflies that'll do that, just certain ones. They have to be careful when they're out there in the field to make sure, hey, it's the same species, it's the right one that I'm supposed to be mating with. So what is this flashing? I mean, why are we seeing these fireflies? Well, they're mating in the spring, like I was saying. That's why we're seeing them now in the springtime. And as a matter of fact, the first Sunday in the month of July is known as World Firefly Day. Yeah, World Firefly Day, the first Sunday in the month of July. So this year it's July 2nd is World Firefly Day. But it's always in the springtime that you see the fireflies because this is the time of year that they're mating. They're laying their eggs, they're reproducing. So that's why there's all this flashing. Now you're going to start seeing them probably towards the end of July. You're going to see fewer and fewer fireflies out there flashing. And the reason is they're done mating. Remember, 3 weeks, that's all they have. 3 weeks to mate, lay their eggs, go about their business. So that's why they do it so quick. But this flashing, what is this flashing? I mean, how do they produce it? Well, they have these tiny little batteries on a backpack, and that goes to an LED. I'm just kidding. I hope you realize I'm just kidding. Don't start writing emails or text to me say, hey, you're crazy, Paul. No, I'm just joking. What it is what we call bioluminescence. A really cool word. I love saying that. Bioluminescence. It's defined as the biochemical emission of light by living organisms. So fireflies are not the only one that does this bioluminescence thing. They're one of the best ones, in my opinion, though, at it. So basically, they are glowing. Bioluminescence. Now, the way that they are doing this, the firefly, in their tail, if you've ever held a firefly in your hand, by the way, firefly, lightning bug, they're actually neither a bug nor a fly. They're a beetle. If you hold one in your hand, you look at them, they have two wings that fold up next to each other when they are landed. And that means a beetle. If you're ever wondering how to tell the difference between a beetle and a non-beetle, when you look at them, if they cross their wings when they land, okay, the one wing over the top of the other, that's not a beetle. Beetle, when they land, they fold their wings up next to each other. I always try to think B-E-E-T-L-E, the two E's are next to each other, beetle. Okay, so the wings are next to each other. Easy way to remember. So a firefly is actually a beetle. And when you hold them in your hand, you'll notice just at the tail, that's the part that's flashing. Now in the tail, in the firefly tail, you'll find two different chemicals. There's luciferase, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, and luciferin. Now luciferin is basically heat resistant and it glows under the right conditions. So you need the right conditions and this luciferin will just start to glow. Whereas luciferase is an enzyme. That enzyme triggers light emission. Okay, I don't know if you remember from science class in school, biology, ATP. Okay, ATP is basically energy. Okay, sometimes it's created by the sugars, sometimes it's enzymes. So you're basically creating the energy for the body through ATP. ATP is this chemical, and it's in the firefly's body, and that's what converts to energy, which initiates the glow. So it's this ATP action or reaction to the enzyme that is causing the firefly's backside to glow. And it's as simple as that. No, okay, simple. There's a lot more to it, but that's the basics of it. So you've got this chemical, this luciferin and luciferase. Okay, that's what's basically lighting up in the presence of the ATP. Now, because of that, it's pretty interesting. Scientists have discovered these are the two chemicals that are causing this lighting up. They are actually using it. Yeah, in medicine, as a matter of fact, because of this luciferin and luciferase lighting up when it's in the presence of the ATP, the energy creation, scientists use these chemicals to detect disease. Okay, all living animals have ATP, okay, or we create ATP, I should say. Depending on the animal, it depends on, how much ATP you create. Now, when there is a disease present, there's less ATP production. Scientists have learned that, so they're using these chemicals to help them detect disease. Also, scientists are using these chemicals to detect food spoilage or the presence of bacteria in foods. So this chemical that we've discovered in these fireflies are actually helping scientists and helping medicine, and it's helping us in the long run. So it's kind of cool how that happens. We get a lot from nature. Now, in some species of firefly, these chemicals will actually be present and functioning when the firefly is in the larval stage or even in the egg stage. So sometimes the larva will glow or the eggs will glow. And that's probably where the nickname glowworm might have come from when people are talking about fireflies. They may have seen this little firefly larva glowing and said, oh, it's a glowworm. Okay, I don't know, but that's probably where the name came from. An interesting fact about this whole process and the glowing, they have found that the firefly light, okay, that light on the back end on their tail, the firefly lights are the most efficient lights in the world. 100% of that energy that's creating that light, 100% is emitted as light. So none of it's wasted. So all this energy that's being created for this light all goes to the light. So it's the most efficient light in the world. And if you're trying to wrap your head around that, let's look at the old incandescent light bulbs that we used to have. They only emit about 10% of the energy as light. 90% is heat. Yeah, you ever go up to one of those old incandescent light bulbs and you accidentally touch it and you burn yourself? That's because 90% of the energy is going towards heat. It's wasted. 10% is towards the light. That's why they use so much energy, so much electricity to light them up. Whereas a fluorescent light bulb, like compact fluorescence, 80 to 90% of the energy is light. So 10 to 20% is heat being wasted. LEDs are the same. They're about 10 to 20% is heat, 80 to 90% is going towards light. So that's why you can actually touch an LED bulb and not burn yourself. They don't create a lot of heat because so much of the energy is going to put out as light. And that's why you use less energy to light up an LED bulb. That's why I always convince everyone, or try to convince people, get LED bulbs, get compact fluorescence, okay? They last longer, they're worth the money. I'll get off my soapbox here, sorry. So fireflies, 100% of that energy going towards lighting up their tail so that they can communicate with the other fireflies. It's just amazing. Now I remember one time when I was out catching fireflies, and I don't usually go out and catch them, I just like watching them, but every once in a while I try to catch them so I can show my grandkids. And I remember catching a firefly once and I thought, oh no, I was too rough. I squeezed him and he emitted all this goo all over my hand. Well, I learned much later that, no, I didn't hurt the firefly. He was actually just defending himself. These chemicals they can actually emit them. When they are threatened, they will let out maybe a drop or two of the chemicals, and if it's a bird or some other animal, a larger insect trying to eat them, it tastes very bitter and it's toxic. It can actually harm the bird. Will it harm people? Well, it can. I don't know if they've done a study, God, I hope not, but they think that it would only take about 20 fireflies. If you ate about 20 fireflies, it could kill a human. That's how toxic this chemical is that causes this bioluminescence. With a bird, it would take much fewer, a small insect trying to eat it. So yeah, most insects, most animals avoid eating fireflies. If you are a reptile owner and you feed crickets and you decide, I'm going to go out and catch fireflies to feed, no, don't. You'll kill your reptile. Yeah, they are toxic, these chemicals in their back ends. So avoid it if possible. So if you do get some on your hands, wash your hands afterwards. Don't stick them in your mouth, please. So it's basically a defense mechanism. They call it reflex bleeding. And they only use it when they are threatened, when they feel attacked. So that's basically how these fireflies are making this beautiful light show for us, is this bioluminescence caused by two chemicals in their tail. Now you may be wondering, I don't know if you're hearing all the frogs around me now. Yeah, I gotta stop talking a second because I'm listening to the frogs. It's a beautiful night, nice and warm. So you may be wondering, why on earth are you out in the field? Why are you out in the middle of the night? Well, it's not really that late. It's only about 10 o'clock. Shortly after, the sun goes down and it just starts to get dark, that's when the fireflies start. And right now it's 10 o'clock and the fireflies are really lighting up my fields here. Now, the reason that I'm out here is because I'm watching the fireflies, of course, because I find them to be fascinating insects. And besides fun, though, I'm also out here for science and the preservation of the fireflies. I am out here in the springtime, not just enjoying this beautiful light show that these fireflies are giving me, but I'm also doing some citizen science, collecting data for the scientists. You see, firefly numbers have dropped over the years. I've had people come up to me and say, I used to see a lot of fireflies when I was a kid, and now I don't see any, or I hardly see any. That's because firefly numbers have dropped. Why have they dropped? Well, the firefly numbers have dropped for a number of reasons. The main reasons are habitat destruction and light pollution. Yeah, habitat destruction. Well, fireflies like moist areas. You'll usually find them around standing water. It doesn't have to be a huge pond. It doesn't have to be, a large area of standing water. It can be a small little puddle, and you'll find fireflies there. They don't need a lot of water at all, but usually find them there. But they also like tall grasses. Yeah, they like to find the tall grasses, area where there's tall grass or forest. They also like forests, wet areas. So they do have a wide variety of habitats, but unfortunately they've lost a lot of those habitats. Do you mow your lawn? You're basically cutting down firefly habitat. Right now I have 12 acres of land. Most of it is untouched. I mow a trail around my property just so that I can go hiking out and see the fireflies or do my bird banding. But most of it is unmowed. It's just kept natural. I do mow a small section up around my house. Guess where I see all the fireflies? Out in the back of my property. back where the grass is tall. I mean, right now the grass is probably about 3 feet tall. That's where all the fireflies are. Out in the middle of my lawn, very few. I see a few, but not many. So that's a big thing. We have cut down forests. We have cut down the fields so that we can build houses, we can build developments. And they also don't like the light pollution. It has gotten so bright out there. I mean, that's why I love my property. Very little light pollution. I remember many years ago when I worked at Beaver Meadow Audubon Center, it's like the Buffalo Astronomical Society, the guys who look at the stars and the moon and the planets and all, they have a building out on the front lawn of the Beaver Meadow Audubon Center because there's very little light pollution there. You try to look at the stars in the middle of the city, good luck. Yeah, you're not going to see many. But you come out to a place like where I live, there's no light. I mean, right now the moon is almost full, so it is a little bright from that, but that's it. You know, there's very little light except when I turn the lights on my patio. So light pollution, we have just doused everywhere, our towns, our city, with lights. And the fireflies, remember how they're communicating, how they're mating? By communicating with light. If they can't see each other, they're not going to find each other. So those are the two main problems. There is a third problem also. Yeah, the third problem is pesticides. Unfortunately, we do use pesticides. Humans want to get rid of the bugs. You know, oh no, there's bugs eating my plants. I picked some lettuce out of my garden yesterday morning. Make a nice fresh salad. It was delicious. But I noticed on the leaves of the lettuce, there were bugs. Did I go out and grab a can of pesticides? No, I didn't. You know, I don't mind a few holes in the leaves. But a lot of people would. They would grab the pesticides and spray. Or you have a hornet's nest. You grab the pesticides and spray it to get rid of it. Well, that not only affects the bad, I'm doing air quotes right now that you can't see, the bad insects, you know, which in my opinion there are none. Everybody has a purpose. But because they're doing things, they're harming things that we like, well, we consider them bad. So because we want to get rid of the bad insects, you know, we spray the pesticides, and it doesn't just affect them, it affects even the good insects, the ones that are doing a lot of good for us, you know, the pollinators, a lot of other insects. So how can you help? Well, if you want to help the fireflies to survive, to get their numbers back up again, let's change those three things. Let's stop using pesticides. If you use them now, stop using them. It's real simple. Just stop using them. Okay? Come up with natural methods to get rid of the pests. Okay? And also, create habitat for them. Remember, the larvae are the longest living. They like, you know, places where they can, you know, lay their eggs on these tall grasses, but then the larvae are going to be down in the ground. You know, maybe leave a section of your property unmowed. Toss some old rotting logs over there. They love the rotting logs. Find lots of insects for the larvae to eat on those. So those are two really simple things that you can do. And the third thing might be a little bit harder depending on where you live, but turn the lights off at night. Yeah, turn them off in the springtime especially. So leave it dark so that these guys can communicate with each other. They can flash and let each other know, hey, I'm ready to mate. And another thing you can do to help is something I'm doing right now is I'm counting the fireflies. I'm not going out 1, 2, 3, 4. There's way too many. But there's a program that the Massachusetts Audubon Society put together called Firefly Watch. I'll leave a link in the show notes if you want to check it out. I'm out here just looking to see what fireflies are out here. Are there more than 5? Are there more than 25? So I'm just getting an approximate number. I'm not counting every single firefly, but I'm also seeing how many different kinds of fireflies I'm seeing. So the ones that are sitting mostly, spending most of their time down on the grasses, okay, that's one species. The ones that are flying around most of the time, that's another species. And what are the colors? What are the colors of the glow? Is it the greenish color? Is it the yellowish color? What's the pattern? Is it a slow? I see one sitting on, almost in front of me, sitting on a plant, on the grass, and really slow, he's fading in, fading out, fading in, fading out. Yet I'm seeing another one that's flying up around in the trees that's doing a double blink. Okay, and he's more of a yellowish color. The one in the grass is kind of yellowish, but I just saw one that's just flew by that looks kind of a greenish hue to it with a single blink. So I'm seeing at least 3 different patterns out here. And this is something that they want to know. And they also want to know the habitat type. They want to know if there's any artificial light. They want to know what the temperature is. The amount of rainfall, is it raining? Is it, have you had a lot of rain? So all of these things they want to know. Is it cloudy? So this way they can take all this data and they can see, well, what type of habitats are these fireflies in? How are they doing? What are the numbers like? I mean, my yard right now is just loaded. I'm going to try to get a video. It's kind of hard with the phone, but I'm going to try to get a video of these guys, and I'll try to post that on my Facebook or on Instagram. Now, all of this is going to help the fireflies. Whether you're doing firefly watch, whether you're creating habitat for them, you eliminated the pesticides, turning your lights out, you got to realize there's like 18 species of fireflies in the US that are facing extinction right now. 18 species of fireflies. All of them have pretty much dropped in numbers. So we're trying to find out through the studies, through Firefly Watch and such, are they recovering? Are they doing worse? What's going on? What's helping them? So that hopefully these creatures, these beautiful light show, creatures that are out here, beetles are just, not going to disappear. Do you want your grandchildren to never see any fireflies? I know I don't. I want them to see fireflies. So that's why I'm doing this, and that's why I'm out here tonight. So do these things. Get rid of the pesticides, get rid of the light pollution, and all of this is going to help these fireflies hopefully survive longer so that future generations can enjoy them. And remember, we're learning from them. We're learning about these chemicals in their bodies that are helping us in medicine and, detecting bacteria and foods. And I mean, all of this is important. So do your best to help these fireflies survive. And if you're wondering, okay, I want to do Firefly Watch, do I really have to sit outside all night long and watch the firefly? No, 10 minutes. That's all they're asking. About 10 minutes of your time. So I'm going to take a little time here and watch these fireflies a little more. I'm going to get a video of them, but it looks like we're just about out of time here. Well, I hope you enjoyed learning about the fireflies tonight. I think I'm going to head on in. I did my count, so I can record that online now. But I want to encourage you, get out as often as you can and, enjoy watching the fireflies. But also, remember, always invite someone else. Yeah, bring a friend along. Not just to listen to the podcast, but to watch the fireflies. Grab a chair, sit back, and just enjoy watching them. Count them, start participating in the Firefly Watch like I do. Or if you don't, that's fine too. Just enjoy watching them. But get someone out to experience it, especially the young kids. I mean, nowadays with all the videos and the phones, and I mean, there's so much occupying our youth's time. They don't get outdoors anymore. So get them outdoors, watch the fireflies, show them that, hey, We have all this beauty around us, and you're missing it if you're in front of a TV or some video screen. So yeah, get them outside. Well, thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoyed learning about the fireflies, and don't forget to rate and review the podcast. Bring a friend along next time. The more the merrier. Spread the news about the Nature Wanderer podcast. You can find my website at naturewanderer.org. You can also find me on Instagram at the Nature Wanderer with underscores in between each word. You can also find me on Facebook. And if you want to support the podcast, go to my Ko-Fi page. The link is in the show notes. Or you can buy some really cool merchandise. I've got a really cool store that I'm always adding new merchandise to all the time. And I'll leave the link in the show notes as well. And above all, have a great day and keep wandering through nature. Keep exploring nature. See you next week.
Hello, nature lovers. Do you love to read books like I do? I've always enjoyed reading books ever since I was a kid, especially books about nature. Unfortunately, as I get older, I find myself with less and less time to sit down with a good book. I've solved that problem with Audible. Audible allows you to listen to your favorite titles while you are driving, at the gym, taking a walk, wherever you are. With all the latest titles, you'll have quite a selection to choose from. And they have podcasts too. Start listening today with a free 30-day trial. To get your free 30-day trial, go to the show notes and click on the link. Happy listening.